Hello， 大家好，欢迎回到外媒看中国，我是安博然。A vice chairman of Taiwan opposition party, the Guomindang or KMT, is currently visiting China's mainland with a delegation who will meet with local officials and travel the country. The visit comes as a new poll suggests a majority of Taiwanese do not trust the US and wish to keep a distance from Washington. Today we'll also chat with friend of the show Eric Zhong about his discussions with Taiwanese youth. This is Reports on China. I'm Andy Boreham in Shanghai. Let's get reporting. Andrew Tsai, a vice chairman of Taiwan's KMT, is currently visiting China's mainland in what he describes as an apolitical visit, focusing on agricultural and fishery products, the livelihoods of Taiwanese living on China's mainland, and other economic issues. But the visit comes hot off the heels of a new survey by Taiwan's Democracy Foundation that shows a majority of Taiwanese do not trust the US and are fearful they'll be pulled into a conflict between Washington and Beijing. I'll put that link under the video, but it is in Chinese. The survey consisted of 1,073 participants aged over 20. When asked whether or not they agree that Taiwan cannot fully trust the United States and must keep a distance in order to avoid being involved in a conflict between China and the US, more than half, or 53%, agreed. Let me just say that again. More than half of Taiwanese locals agree that the US cannot be trusted and that Taiwan must distance itself from Washington. The survey, which was released just last month, offers detailed breakdowns of participants' responses for each question. Now, you might think that older people would be more distrusting of the US and younger people might be more keen to cozy up, but that's actually not true. Those aged 70 and over were least likely to distrust the US at just 37.1%. Females were slightly more likely to distrust Washington at 53.4% versus 52.6% for males. And generally, the more educated a participant was, the more wary they were of the US. Those who had only completed primary school education were more trusting of Uncle Sam, while 57.1% of graduate students want to distance themselves from the superpower. As expected, the results varied depending on political affiliations. 71.8% of KMT participants agreed with the statement, and only 30.1% of DPP participants. An even higher number of participants agree that the US claims to advocate for the One China policy and not support Taiwan independence, but that in actuality it uses Taiwan as leverage against China's mainland. 62.8% of those aged between 20 and 29 agree, and that climbs to 68.5% for 40 to 49-year-olds. Again, the higher educated a participant is, the more likely they are to agree that the US is using Taiwan against Beijing. Only 20.5% of those who only completed primary school education agree, but that skyrockets to 85.4% of graduate students. Interestingly, a majority of respondents from both major parties agreed, with KMT respondents at 66% and DPP respondents at 55.4%. Now that's quite fascinating because it means that a majority of Tsai Ing-wen's DPP members know full well the games the US is playing, but they're still more than willing to trust Uncle Sam. During KMT Vice Chairman Andrew Tsai's ongoing visit to the mainland, the delegation met with the head of Beijing's Taiwan Affairs Office and visited Nanjing and Shanghai, among other places. Now, Beijing will be hoping to strengthen ties between Taiwan through this visit, and maybe even get official communications back on track across the straits. Global Times reported that Zhu Fenglian, spokesperson for the Taiwan Affairs Office of the State Council, said that joint efforts should be made to advance relations between the Communist Party of China and the KMT, and relations across the Taiwan Straits, safeguard peace and stability across the straits, and improve the interests and well-being of compatriots on both sides of the straits. Currently, official communication lines between Beijing and Taiwan have been cut since Tsai Ing-wen's DPP does not honour the 1992 consensus, which saw both sides agree that there is only one China. But her attitudes towards China's mainland don't appear to be supported by many Taiwanese. Last November, she was forced to step down from her role as party chair following an embarrassing local election defeat. Now, local elections in Taiwan aren't usually about major, wider issues, but this time Tsai Ing-wen and the DPP urged voters to use the elections as a show of support for her increasingly hostile attitudes towards Beijing. That backfired majorly. As shown by Taiwan's Democracy Foundation survey, Taiwanese citizens are growing tired of the DPP's neglect of the 1992 consensus and subsequent refusal to hold dialogue with Beijing. Participants were asked, if the conflicts and confrontations between the two sides of the strait continue and there's no exchange and dialogue, do you think it is more unfavourable to Taiwan or China's mainland? The vast majority, 58.4%, believe it's more damaging to Taiwan, with only 11% thinking it will damage China's mainland more. 16.7% believe the lack of communication is equally detrimental to both sides.
I believe that our guests from the mainland would also be very curious about why some of our Taiwan compatriots came to the mainland for higher education in the first place.
The reason why I came here is because I think that mainland has more opportunities. And the second reason is about my mother. My mother is a big fan of Wu Danru. Wu Danru, she studied in Yuelu Academy. And so my mother hoped that I can follow her footsteps and to study in Hunan University.
I see. So it's under your mother's influence as well.
Yeah.
After graduating from high school, I actually applied for plenty of the universities, including medical school in Taiwan and Hong Kong University and also Peking University. But I always wanted to come to Peking University because it is a world-class university. It has profound cultural heritage and also humanistic feelings.
How about Simo?
I really love languages. There are fewer languages that you can choose in Taiwan. So I suppose that my university, Shanghai International Studies University, is a very good choice.
Eric, it's been a long time. Welcome back to the show. How was your Spring Festival break?
Well, I went back to my hometown. It was quite surprising because I have never seen that many people in the past 3 years during the Chinese New Year. And there were so many people at the railway station, at the airport. And very interestingly, we had a huge firework display in my hometown. It was organized by the government and it went on for 1 whole hour. I think at that day, more than 70,000 people watched it on spot, and it was also live streamed, so I could enjoy it at home as well. So it was a very particular Chinese New Year experience for me.
Wow, sounds awesome. It seems like things are definitely getting back to normal. Hey, we've just seen a clip from your series Youth Power, which I think goes to show just how important dialogue is between both sides of the Taiwan Strait. So could you tell us a bit more about your Taiwan episode?
Sure. The episode was aired actually last year in August, soon after Pelosi's reckless visit to Taiwan. We had a couple of friends from Taiwan and China's mainland to discuss a variety of topics, and we had a great time shooting the episode in Quanzhou, Fujian province, which is one of the geographically closest places on China's mainland to Taiwan.
Oh, sounds awesome. So it often seems, though, that online debates, for example, on Twitter and other social media platforms, they just end up kind of as hideous arguments with no real progress. So I was wondering if there were any hostilities during filming of your show between youth from both sides.
Well, it's unfortunate that many debates online only brush over some superficial stances or even demeaning labels. And in fact, there wasn't any hostility during our filming of the episode. There wasn't any hostility because I think we really had a lot of fun discussing different topics, and we had really engaging conversations about, say, popular culture, the history between China's mainland and Taiwan, and how we should take things forward in the future. So I suppose we didn't need to be at loggerheads with each other, right? I think most well-intended people across the strait want peace. And it's those who, for example, want to take advantage of wars to fulfill their agenda and fill their pockets that don't want conflicts to go away, which unfortunately we have seen over the past few decades many times all over the world.
Yeah, it's a real shame. So I was wondering then if you had any advice that you would give to anyone hoping to hold talks between both sides in the future, and basically how we can ensure that that communication is fair, open, and fruitful.
I think why we had a great time filming the episode was because the Taiwan youth, they have understood the Chinese mainland after spending a few years here, and the youth from China's mainland were also open and respectful enough to hearken to their stories, opinions, and analysis. I would give the same advice to those who wish to speak on Taiwan and China's mainland in the future. And on top of that, I think it's really important for especially those non-major actors, by which I mean people from China's mainland and Taiwan, to really first understand the notions of sovereignty and territory and examine them with a historical lens and a comparative lens. You know, as Anna Arendt once said, depth cannot be reached by man except through remembrance. So it's really important for us to first comb through those historical facts.
So as always, understanding is so important. Eric Zhong, thank you so much for your insights. As always, we'll see you next time. Just taking a quick look at the latest reports on China poll on YouTube. You guys seem to be very leaning towards optimistic about the KMT visit to China's mainland. I asked if you think the visit will help relations. More than 4,000 of you voted, with 66% saying yes, 14% who think not, and 17% answering with a maybe. George commented, "Hopefully Taiwan can see what's happening in the Ukraine situation and not fall into the same trap of becoming a tool for the US." Hear, hear. Well, that's going to be it for today, you guys. But as always, I want to know what you guys think. Should Taipei and Beijing open communication lines again? Will the DPP acknowledge the 1992 consensus? And what do you guys think the future holds for cross-strait relations? As always, let me know down below, and don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.